And I started to realize that that style of wrestling to them is what my style of wrestling is to me. It's what I love to do. It's what I'm passionate about. And it's what I thrive to be better at. I'm not saying I'll never.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Interest of the greater good for me to smoke a joint and calm down.
I am the greatest. He'll fall an eight to prove that I'm great. And if he keeps talking Jack, I'm going to cut it to five.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ville Chillin' Podcast. Today, we're hanging out with BradXilla, local wrestler for TCW. And yeah, man, I guess we'll just jump straight in. What got you into wrestling? Like, how long have you been into wrestling? Has it been a lifelong passion?
Oh, first and foremost, thank you guys for taking time out to let me on your podcast. I appreciate the invite. In terms of the wrestling business, it's one of those things, man. When I was a kid, seeing like the Stone Colds and the Undertakers on screen, I thought, man, that'd be cool as hell to do one day. I didn't get into it till I was about 23. I actually met with Mike Walden, who most people know as Cash Flow. He had a school in Brooks, Kentucky, and that's where I was trained at. So it's been about 10 years now that I've been doing this crazy fantasy world we call professional wrestling.
Hey, we all embrace fantasy in so many different ways. Some people play video games. Some people get lost in movies and books. You know, it's a necessary part of life. It's awesome. It's another art form. You know, it's expression.
Right. No, absolutely. You know, that's what wrestling's been for me. It's been art and expression. Might get into it a little more later, but yeah, wrestling and the arts, man, they saved me on several occasions.
Awesome. And so you said you've been, or you started learning 10 years ago, you said, with Cash Flow?
Yeah, 10 years ago under Cash Flow. And
it's awesome.
Man, that was some hardcore training. I do not envy the kids at OVW now that are getting trained under him. Actually, I don't know. He's lightened up a little bit, but back when we were training, we were just in this little. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we were in this little shithole of a building. It was like attached to a plumbing company, and we called it. It was like our first arena, and man, it's like there was no air conditioning, no heat. So what it was outside is what it was inside. So,
oh man,
doing rolls, taking bumps, getting chopped. We would train 3 to 4 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day. And then on show days, it was like another training day. You have to break down, build up. And then if there was free time, you were in the ring running drills and learning. Cash made sure that by the time you were ready to go out on your own, that how you performed in the ring was a direct reflection of the tools that he gave you.
That's really cool. It sounds like a hard experience, but I mean, it shows dedication to do that every day, every week, and just keep doing it.
Paying those dues.
Yeah.
Did you do any kind of, a lot of wrestlers, they kind of start out sometimes like in the backyard kind of pretending. Did you ever do any kind of like backyard wrestling growing up?
I mean, outside of like messing around on a trampoline with like buddies, like I never did any of the backyard stuff. Honestly, I legit didn't even know the backyard scene existed until I started training. And one of the guys I trained with, Justin Storm, came from the backyard scene, and I met like Shane Mercer and them. Come to find out, like this scene's existed forever. Like this is where your JCWs and stuff like that come from. Like these underground guys that. They just want to do it for the fun of doing it. So for me, I never did the backyard stuff, but it looked fun.
So, and then with that, I guess when backyard wrestling, like it feels like it was at its biggest or started getting big was like during that Attitude Era. And you said like with Stone Cold and The Rock, that's kind of like when you caught the bug. Like, is there any memories from the Attitude Era that like kind of that stick out that really inspired you? Like, hey, this is what I want to do.
I'd tell you the moment that turned me onto the product. So there's a moment that turned me onto the product, and then there's a moment where I realized one day, maybe when I'm grown up, I might try this. What turned me on to the product was I believe it was episode of Raw where they crucified Stone Cold on the cross.
I remember
That piqued my interest. And then when I started getting introduced to the guys like Eddie Guerrero, who were just stocky and just built like a brick house but can move, and like the Chris Benoit's and stuff like that, like those are the guys that I started looking at going, you know what, maybe I could do this. And that's what I try to do. Some of my style, I try to be that big guy that can also move. It hasn't been great on my knees or my ankles, but I've been trying to lose some lb so I can move a little quicker. But yeah, definitely the Eddie Guerrero will be my all-time influence in terms of like looking at like what a great wrestler is.
All around too, like with Eddie Guerrero, like really the technical aspect, everything from the technical aspect to the entertaining and just being able to tell a story. I think that's awesome that you said that that crucifixion with Stone Cold is one thing that stuck out to you, because I feel like that was like peak storytelling with the Attitude Era. One thing you said you did a post, you said wrestling is our art. The styles may be different, deathmatch, hardcore, traditional, flippy, regardless of which one you embrace it, that is our art, embrace it. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around 10 years. I've seen every style of wrestling you can imagine. And, in my younger time, I kind of like turned my nose up to some of the styles that were a little more hardcore and like more violent. But then I got to really know the people who were in those realms. And I started to realize that style of wrestling to them is what my style of wrestling is to me. It's what I love to do. It's what I'm passionate about. And it's what I thrive to be better at. I'm not saying I'll never try a hardcore match or something, but in terms of the art I like to create inside of our little squared stage, my art is different than someone else's art, but it's still art. And if you have somebody who can look at that art and go, hell yeah, then you've done something right.
Oh yeah, like that's a really refreshing like perspective on it. To be open minded and see it as just another just like with music or something. Like sometimes I guess people look at music and think some things are better than others, but just to kind of think of it as art and open minded. Like I love like Jim Cornette. Cornette's awesome, but I guess he's more of like traditionalist, where he, like you said, he kind of like looks down on some of that kind of style of wrestling. Do you think there's a line though, like as far as once it gets to a certain extreme, like like Kenny Omega's awesome, but once you start, wrestling with, a blow up doll, like, do you think that's still considered wrestling, or do you think there's a line?
No, that's still art. That's still wrestling.
Yes.
It's all about suspending disbelief and getting people out of their worlds for a few hours at a time. What we do in the ring, some of us, a lot of us, it's just as beneficial to us getting in that ring and giving you all something that it is for the crowd. It gets you away from reality. So whether I'm actually wrestling, a shit brick house like Steel Wool, or I'm wrestling a blow up doll, like as long as the show's fun and people get something out of it, it's great. I mean, when we were training with Cash, we had to wrestle a broom. And that's legit. We had to cut promos on brooms and wrestle them. And that's how we learned to like really hone in and work.
Awesome. How do you do that? Like, how do you get, like, you got to be very creative to do that, right? Like to make, tell a story with a broom. Like, how do you do that?
Well, you're definitely not having like a 20-minute like drag out brawl, but it's all about knowing how to. Man, this is actually a hard one because it's been so long since I've done it. Just like telling the story, a lot of it's like facial expressions. If you bump off standing in front of a broom, it's up to you to sell your body that broom just pushed me. The broom doesn't have arms. A broom doesn't have a head that it can headbutt you with. But if I have a broom in a corner and I fly backwards, take a bump, and get up, I got to sell it like that fucking broom just pushed me. And it's just about, it's about buying into your own illusion. I could sell it. The broom just shot me like a motherfucker. It's all about, it's basic storytelling.
And that's cool. That's a really interesting training thing that I don't think I ever would have imagined or, thought of, having to try to wrestle a broom. That's wild, but that's creative from the trainer aspect too, like coming up with that, like even if maybe it's been around for a long time, but that's really interesting. It's like shadow boxing,
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was something else he would have us do was punch ring posts and chop ring posts.
Gotcha.
Was
So, yeah.
those are pretty rough too. Like those are like metal, right? Like hard steel,
Oh, yeah.
or
Oh yeah, they're still.
It
I've
doesn't
yet to
feel
find
good.
a soft ring post.
Man, that's pretty wild. And you can definitely see it. You talked about the facial expressions and stuff, and you can see that going on. And it's the same reason, like when you watch like John Cena and his eyes blow up this big. It's what a lot of what sells it. And I just want to say kudos to you and kudos to TCW, because the match that we saw, they sold it pretty well. It was all,
awesome.
and you saw so many different styles, and it was still just an entertaining show. It was really awesome to see. And man, like I told you when I reached out, it looked like you bumped your head a couple of times. Did you end up with any concussion or anything, you feel like, or it's just kind of?
I did end up with a very mild concussion. I was feeling it, some reciprocals from it for about a week afterwards. The day after was terrible. I ended up not moving the whole day. But it just, sometimes it just happens. Accidents happen in the ring. I went back and watched the match, as I do with most of my matches, to be my own biggest critic, try to figure out, where I can improve, and, just for this match, really remember what happened. And the first headbutt was in the corner when I was getting the punches.
Yep.
And turning him around, threw him in the corner. Well, when I was down and he bounced off the corner and I was coming up, our heads met. That was the first. Kind of knocked me a little silly, busted him up bad inside of his mouth.
Oh wow.
And then the Luthez press. I've never been like knocked silly on a Luthez press, but it was just a simple, when he jumped up and I caught him, his hands were kind of too far near my head. So when we landed, even though like I tucked and braced, his hands had kind of like shoved my head into the mat, and I was out. You watch the video, and I was out a good 5-10 seconds. Thankfully, my boy knows how to improvise, and he was able to give me just enough time to finally like get my facilities about me, remember where the hell I was, and continue the match. Which I felt the finish went about as well as it could, with one guy barely able to like remember where he is in the moment. But yeah, that's the importance of just having that wherewithal of, oh, something's wrong. Well, fuck it, I'm going for a pin. It has to keep going. We got to go. So yeah, kudos to him for staying professional and helping to make sure the match still went off well.
Yeah, and it's funny you said improvise. Of course, Stefan hooked us up and connected us. And so have you found that your history in improv probably helps a lot in the ring, and having that wherewithal, that quick thinking and everything?
I think that's actually what has driven me to continue to build on who BradXilla is now. I did not get into improv until probably 4 years after I got into wrestling. And when I met Stefan at a show, he was starting to do some classes, and offered me to come in and do like a beginner class and check out improv, see what it's all about. And honestly, I fell in love with it. It was a lot of the same satisfaction I got from being in the ring, but it was on a stage and there wasn't anybody trying to swing chairs at me. So I thought this is fantastic transition. And I kept up with the improv for quite a while. COVID kind of killed wrestling and improv for me for a while.
Yeah.
But honestly, improv has helped make me a better wrestler, as it allows me in the moment to think more on my feet, and also get a better feel of the crowd. If you're doing something and the crowd's not really digging it, you have to have that wherewithal to know, okay, which card do I pull out next? What's the next thing that might work? And doing it in the moment can sometimes be difficult because if your partner who's in the ring with you, if maybe they aren't great at thinking on their feet, you have to really bring them in, put them in a rest hold and explain to them like what's happening next. But improv was very crucial. And when I decided to get back into wrestling, in terms of my storytelling and my match setups, it was probably the most important tool that I had.
Would you say that the yes and like plays a factor as far as like between like you and your opponent, like as far like if there's like chemistry wise, like do you feel like that there's a better match if you and whoever you're going against is able to yes and each other kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can yes and each other, like anything, theater, improv, wrestling, if you can yes and you'll get a better flow. The only rule that's slightly different between wrestling and improv is I'm allowed to say no, because sometimes people have some weird fucking ideas and I'm like, no, we're not going to go that way.
Well, seen some people's like move sets and stuff. Oh, did something shut down, bro?
Yeah, our camera froze, but that's okay.
We might, if we can't get it back going, we might just do like, we'll maybe just put like some like graphics or something there. Improv.
Yeah, there we go. We're improvising. We're gonna put some cute graphics up. We'll make it work.
Right.
First time the cameras just flat out froze on us. I don't know how long we were frozen.
And that's the BradXilla effect. Weird shit just happens.
That's funny. Well, yeah, forget exactly what we were saying, but I know we were talking about improv and everything and how that works. Right. And I think one important connection that I think you were starting to make is having to trust your partner. And
right.
that matters in both, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to trust your partner, and like you said, both wrestling and improv. A scene in improv is only as good as your partner, and vice versa. In wrestling, it's the same way with matches, and sometimes these matches, you have to put blind trust into people because this might be the very first time you've ever met each other, and you just have to hope that they have that same pedigree that you do, or that same understanding of just what wrestling is in general as a formula. So far in the 10 years I've done it, I've only had a couple occurrences where, just myself and the other person just could not mesh. And it wasn't any one thing. It was just, it was like a clash of styles. It was a clash of personalities. This was like early on in my career. But yeah, since I've gotten back, everybody I've had the opportunity and pleasure to work with at TCW, everybody's been extremely professional. Some of the guys I've worked with, I've known since I started wrestling, so that's been really nice to get back in there with them. But yeah, you just have to trust. Trust is huge in professional wrestling and in improv.
I've heard a lot of people, I guess, in the business kind of explain it almost like a family, right? As far as that trust that because you are giving your body, to your opponent and vice versa. So it can go bad if you don't have that or that trust. So,
Right.
how would you explain your character BradXilla? Like, how did that come about?
Right. So the original BradXilla was that was just on a whim. I was actually working under a mask when I first started wrestling, as we would often do, just to get ring time, to get the physicality down before we really started working on like the facial expressions, the promos and things like that, just to get that ring time in. We were driving to, I believe it was Evansville, Indiana, for a show that Cash was on. It was a CCW. And
Wow.
Yeah, I just threw a name out there, right? But yeah, we were going out to do a show, and I was just riding along. I was the greenest kid in the car. Justin had been in for about a year already, so he was actually on the card. So he was going to have a match. And on the way there, they'd get a call saying, "Hey, you guys are bringing that Brad kid. Does he have his gimmick? We can probably do something with him." And the only gimmick I had with me was my mask gimmick, and they were like, "No, that's not going to work." So we pulled off at a Walmart. I got probably and you can find photos of this online. I'll send it to you guys after this is over, but we just found like the douchiest outfit that we could at Walmart. and threw it on me. And then they're like, yeah, you're, let's see, he's Justin Storm. Brad, you're real big. BradXilla, that's what we're going to go with.
Awesome.
So I took it, I ran with it. And you know, that led me into some creative conflicts with myself, because I was still trying to figure out who I was as a wrestler and who I was as a character. And I never really learned a lot about BradXilla, the initial incarnation, other than he was a big guy that could move real fast and could get the crowd behind him. That was pretty much it. This new BradXilla, the second round. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, hey, that's a good foundation. I mean, that's a lot of wrestlers, just being strong and be able to get the crowd behind them. So, and then you said you elaborated on that as far as the second reincarnation.
Yeah. So I stepped away from wrestling in 2000. First time I stepped away was in 2019, just due to some personal stuff. Then when I tried to come back, slightly after COVID, it kind of opened up a little bit where we could start doing shows again. That was when TCW was starting to get off the ground. TCW started in 2019. I was their first champion. I dropped the title a couple shows later, and then I vanished for about 2 years. And then I decided, you know what, I miss wrestling. COVID had happened, improv had shut down. Stefan and I used to co-host and co-produce the Damn Good Improv Festival. Ran it for, I was lucky enough to run it with him for 2 years. I ran for 3 years, and then 2020 it shut down. Stefan moved out west, and it just hasn't come back yet. But I didn't have my improv to fall back on, so I started getting really depressed, and finally decided, I'm gonna try this wrestling thing again. And I went back. I did 1 or 2 shows with TCW, and I could not get out of my head that I wasn't supposed to be there. I'm looking around at all these people that, I've known for years, and people that I hadn't met before, and I'm just like, man, I don't belong here. I don't think I'm supposed to be a wrestler. This is what they call the imposter syndrome, where when things are going well, there's this little voice in your head that just brings nothing but self-doubt, and you tend to believe it because it tends to be the loudest voice in your head. So, sorry, this is so long-winded, but it's actually
Oh, it's
I didn't
perfect.
realize. I honestly didn't realize how many different moments led up to this. But in 2022, I had a series of severe panic attacks that put me in the hospital. That led me to take my mental health a lot more seriously. So I started into therapy, and in therapy, wrestling came up, and my shout out to my therapist. I'm not allowed to speak her name because of NDAs and all that stuff, but she's incredible. She helped me realize what this self-sabotage was, how to work with it, how to be able to tell when the voice you're hearing is the one that's trying to put you down and the one that's trying to lift you up. So when I finally started listening to that voice when it lift me up, I put a feeler out there into the world, and I said, it's anybody got room for me. I'm not trying to beg. I wouldn't mind rolling around again. And Sue Ann from TCW, she reached out. She said, you always have a home here. And as I understand that, I have to figure out who I am. And I spent a long time, and I had these random ideals of, who I wanted to be. I had these other characters that were just, they sounded cool on paper, but then when I tried to put it into practice, in private, I couldn't get behind it. I was trying to run away from BradXilla because I felt like it was an identity that was given to me, and I wasn't paying attention to the fact that BradXilla is who I always was. I just wasn't willing to really step into the character and let it be who it is. What held BradXilla back, the original incarnation, was this empathy of being worried about everybody else and not worrying much about myself. So working through therapy and stuff, I kind of killed that empathy side of me that has allowed me to come back into wrestling. And BradXilla now, it's night and day. I know where I want to go and what I want to be. And it doesn't matter how many quote unquote bodies I have to stack to get there. I know I have the wherewithal. I know I have the power and the passion to get there. So that is who BradXilla is now. BradXilla he's determined, he's focused, and he's out to prove his old self wrong. And I think that's what's going to really help me continue to build and continue to create something special.
Awesome, man. It sounds like it's been a very passionate and sometimes painful journey, but like you said, it's a culmination of all those things that has made BradXilla what he is today. And that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because that's deep. And
yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily want to, but we definitely appreciate it, and
and that's the thing, man. Like, a lot of people, it's if you talk to anybody who suffers with mental health or stuff like that, the biggest thing is always like this fear of talking about it. And I've learned that being open about it makes people who are afraid to talk about it more open to be like, you know what, man, I feel that way too. Like, how do you get through these days? How do you dwell? How do you get up in the morning? And I think the more open we are about our mental health, the more we can help each other heal.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned imposter syndrome, and honestly, just with this podcast, you can ask him. I've said it so much in like recent weeks. It feels like imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. We just jump on here and find people we want to talk to, and try to get their story. So, that's awesome, man. Because I've definitely experienced that. So,
and that's all imposter syndrome is, man. It's just it's a voice in your head trying to hold you down. And once you can learn to to filter that voice out and learn who he is and what the negativity he's trying to bring upon you, you can send it elsewhere, lock it up into a little box, put it away, and then, focus on what's actually important to you. And you continue to move forward from that.
Yeah, that's all you can do. And like you said, it's awesome to see how you take it and funnel it into your art. You used that to keep pushing towards your art, your passion, and use it as that driving force instead.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are artists, and they always make the joke about, there's pain in art, and I never really understood it until I started going through all this shit, and I'm like, man, so that's the pain in your art. You have to go through some shit to come out on the other side and find, what is truly, quote unquote, your art.
Yeah. But I mean, you said it beautiful in the quote that, Jack mentioned earlier, talking about the different styles, and that's your art, and you got to embrace it. And that's awesome. Changing gears a little bit. Well, I guess first, I don't know how to ask the question, I guess. Would you say BradXilla right now he's a heel? Because you definitely seem to get some boos, but you always wonder, everybody always boos and yays, and that's part of the story. And then, do you have a preference between heel and babyface?
Man, honestly, BradXilla is just BradXilla. Gotcha. It's that enigma I'm trying to create to where my focus isn't really on the audience. It's you can choose to boo me, you can choose to cheer me. That's your choice. Mm-hmm. You're choosing to react based upon my actions. And that says a lot about you as a person. If you're willing to get in your emotions in the audience about something I'm doing in the ring, that's fantastic. That means that I've captivated you in some way, shape, or another. You hate me or you love me. Either way, I got your attention.
As long as there's a reaction. Yes.
As long as there's a reaction. In terms of working, man, I've done both. I spent years and years and years being baby, doing tag team stuff. Worked with some teams like Team IOU and some other like the Rejects out in CCW, and just being the heel sometimes, being the baby sometimes, and honestly, being the heel is a lot better for my cardio because you don't have to move a whole lot. But I have no trouble being the baby either. I try to be as fluid as possible. But if me personally, if I had to say which one that I prefer to portray, if you had to put a label on somebody's attitude in the ring, I would say probably the heel would be my preferred cup of tea. preferred flavor, so to say.
Nice. Would you say you could sometimes be more creative as a heel, or
You honestly, it's all about it's all about that teamwork and that partnership. You know, your creativity can only go as far as the person you're working with. So if I have some kind of crazy idea, and you know the person I'm working with is like, nah, dog, that like let's break it down and really look at it, and then like we break it down, and I'm like, no, that was dumb as hell. Why did we even think about that? But in terms of like creativity and moves, you don't have to have a huge move set as a heel. But as a baby, you know, you gotta be able to pull some shit out of your ass, do some crazy stuff. I used to do a top rope European uppercut. Probably won't see me do that much right now in TCW. I might pop it out as like a special occasion, but you know, I used to fly a little bit, but I don't do it as much anymore.
like you describing it, like what I'm picturing? I'm hearing the, like Hayuken. Like like when you make the connection, I'm hearing like the old video game like Street Fighter. I don't know what, like Hayuken. Like that's what I'm picturing right now. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, you just see a 300-pound, you know, ginger in a leotard flying at you from the sky. It's like two things are going through your mind. Oh shit, and why am I here?
Nice.
Man, yeah, that sounds crazy. I would definitely be terrified to be honest. Oh
Yeah,
man.
maybe I'll bust it out one show. Just see if I still got it.
One more time.
Yeah. No, I'm done. I'll do it once and then I'm not getting back up there. I hate heights. I hate heights so much.
So like never like what about like if somebody asked you to do like a ladder match?
I mean, I've sucked it up and I'll deal with the heights. You know, when I was under my mask gimmick, my false finish was a swanton. So, you know, I had to go up to the top rope and do that and miss it every single night, which was fantastic. It felt great on my back. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say on that. I got lost.
That's crazy though. But I mean, that goes back to your character and everything, and your drive and your passion. You know, being able to set aside that fear of heights to suck it up and, you know, do what you got to do for the show.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because you mentioned ladder match. Yeah. I'll do whatever I need to for the show. You know, a ladder match. Honestly, it sounds fun. I'd love to give it a try one day. Just know I'll probably get in there with someone like Steel Wool who wants to do like a spinning pile driver off the top just for fun. Dude is nuts. Dude is nuts.
He was moving, man. He was he was wild. It was awesome though. It was really cool.
He's 240 pounds and he moves at that speed, man. When he jumped at me with that crossbody, I honestly didn't know if I could stay stable catching him. I caught him and held him, and I'm like, okay, I'm still strong, but this fucker is fast.
Yeah. He was moving fast, and it was surprising, but it seemed like that's kind of just a thing in TCW. I mean, I'm bad with names, but the one guy did a freaking backflip in one match. And that just blew my mind. It was one of the other bigger guys, and just see him jump into a backflip, like I would never even attempt it.
You can't fake gravity.
Exactly. Like,
I think you're speaking about I think it's James Kendrick.
that's who it was.
He's one of those guys you wouldn't think he's super athletic, but he'll throw out a backflip out of nowhere, and you'll just kind of sit there going, "What the hell did he just do?"
Yeah, man, it blew my mind. I looked straight at him like, did that actually just happen? Did you see it the same way I saw it? So
yeah, TCW, we like to keep you on your toes. You don't know what you're going to see.
So, and how does that work with like the history of TCW? You said that they started 2019. And then kind of like did they have to shut down, I guess, because of COVID, and then like how do you know like the history of that, how they originated? Or
yeah, TCW started in 2019 just as an experiment to see if they could put on a show, if they could get a draw. I was honored enough to be their first champion, to help them out, to be someone who could help bring in other people to be like championship material. I'm not trying to like shine myself up and all that, but I believe I can work well with anybody. So being able to be in that position as the champ and bring in people to work with to make them look good, So that's where TCW started. Like everything else, it shut down in 2020. Took a long time to start up again. I think they did their first show back in. I would have to ask the managers of when it started back up because I'm terrible with dates. But it was in 2020 they started back up when we were very limited to how many people could be in audiences. It was the most asinine thing where we're wearing masks in the locker room, but then we're going out to the ring locking up without masks. Like that was
So wild.
completely asinine to me. I'm like, we might as well just wrestle in the masks or no mask. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
But since then, they have a really good track record of running monthly, which is nice. You have some kind of constant, and they've only had to cancel a few shows. Mainly, it's been either weather related or just it's one place where a bunch of companies work out of, and sometimes people get double booked, and you have to make a choice. Who's not working. But no, TCW, they have their owner is very very passionate about the product that they want to put on, and when they asked me to come back and and why they wanted me to come back, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was you don't have to come back. Just know that you have a home here, and whenever you feel comfortable getting back into the ring, it's here for you. And it's can't thank them enough for that. TCW has been a very very much a saving grace in the BradXilla story.
That's awesome, man. And it's a really cool arena too. You mentioned multiple kind of promotions work out of there. Mm-hmm. Do you know how that goes down? Like how many promotions kind of work out of there? Do you know?
I honestly, I can think of 2 other promotions, but I know there's other ones as well, but I just don't know their names. Too Tough Tony, who owns the arena, I've known him, God, since I was a kid. And he's super passionate about wrestling, so he wants to give as many people a home as he can. But he also doesn't want to overcrowd it either, so he tries to keep it spaced out.
Yeah, that
building's cool as hell. I love it. Except the basement. The basement's cold as hell.
There's a basement there?
Yeah, man, that's where our locker room is. Our locker room's in the basement.
Oh, wow. You have no idea.
Cold as hell.
Well, and you were talking about not, they haven't really canceled any shows, and the day when we went there, it was the Arctic blast, so it was cold, and there was snow and ice, but there was still a really good turnout. It seemed like
yeah. We took a chance. A couple other companies were like, you know what, it's super cold. Maybe people won't want to come out, and we were like, let's just see what happens. It's been extra cold. Me in my head, if it's been super cold and the roads are good and I have an opportunity to get the hell out of the house, I'm getting out of the house.
Yep.
And I think that's what happened was, first of all, we had Mickey Knuckles on the card, who was just a legend.
Yes.
Then you had myself on the card with Stillbull, first time ever matchup. Then you had a few other names on the card who always, they're super entertaining and they always bring in a good crowd base. And it was just this, it was a perfect storm during an Arctic storm where everybody went to get out of the house and TCW happened to be the place that was open. And it was fantastic. I think we did a great job and hope to see a lot of those people back in this month in February. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, that's 2 weeks from, today. So that's February 17th, right?
Right. February 17th. Yeah.
And so you're the main event for the belt, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can you tell us a little bit about what led up to you're wrestling the champion's epic Trayvon Smith, right? Can you tell us a little bit what led to that?
That was TCW's first champion. The way I lost the belt, I'm still not super happy about. There were kind of some stupid shenanigans, and coming back, the first thing I focused on was, well, who is this champion? Who are they? Are they doing the belt well. And the kid, he's super high energy. He's a bigger guy. He's quick, and honestly, he reminds me a lot of who I used to be as BradXilla. Like super high energy. Entrance music is like some crazy like pop stuff that's super loud and gets everybody dancing. Crowd loves him, and honestly, I think that's kind of what pissed me off about him was I was that guy at one point, and now here he is with my title. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Like I'm just gonna watch this guy. I'm gonna see what he's about, and it kind of culminated in our December show. I kind of had some one-offs with him at other shows where I would literally just come out to the ramp, sit down in the chair, watch his match because I wanted to know, who is this guy? What can he do? And it was in November, and I legit had enough. I watched him barely get a win over a guy much smaller than him, and I'm like, yeah, no, this ain't right. So I ran out there and I put the boots to him. I gave him about 3 choke slams, and I told him straight up, I was like, look, all right, champ, love it while you can, because come December, like that's mine. I'm not telling you we're having a match. I'm just going to take it from you. Well, the December show got canceled, very conveniently for him. And then in January, I was like, okay, well, maybe this match is going to happen in January. Then I find out from the management group that he's actually taking January off, which, once again, very convenient. You can stay the champ as long as you can if convenience is constantly in your favor. And then, I don't know if you guys even heard it at the show, but when Steel Wool and I were about to start, I didn't know that was a number 1 contenders match. I thought I was just having to wrestle somebody to hold me over until February.
Funny, because I did hear you go, what is going on? Why am I here? Like, I'm already the contender.
Yeah, like I already have the match. The match is mine. And then the boss is like, no, you know what? I'm actually kind of tired of your shit. This is a number 1 contender match. I'm like, okay, cool. Now I actually have to try. And I got knocked out in the process.
And still won.
Still won somehow. The tape shows 3 choke slams put him down. So I think for Trayvon in February, I think I'm going to go for about 6.
There you
I
go.
think he's new in the business. I think maybe it's time to get humbled. And I even said it in my promo. You can only duck me for so long before convenience is no longer an option. Like, it's gonna happen. You're gonna have to face me. You can take a year sabbatical, but at some point, like, you're gonna have to face me, whether you have both your legs or one of your legs. Like, it's gonna happen. And I'm honestly pumped for it because I've seen what he can do, and I know what I can do, and I'm very interested to see how our styles mesh.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It's shaping up to be a great show. If it's anything like the last one, then I only expect good things, man. I can't wait.
Definitely a story of, taking back what's yours, right? Like, this is something that's,
Absolutely.
been going on for, a long time, and it's just accumulating and, just bringing it back home.
Yeah. I mean, it should have never left in the first place, but hey, maybe that was good for me. That gave me the chance to get my mind right. Now I'm back, stronger, better than ever. It's sometimes things happen for a reason, and I think this was that reason.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. We definitely encourage. We've been sharing it. Once we saw you share the event, we shared it out, and I hope it's a great turnout, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
definitely want to say I appreciate you guys coming to the show last month, and also appreciate you, sharing this show and speaking freely. It means a lot to me and the art that, we can continue to get butts in seats and provide happiness for a couple hours on a random Saturday night.
Man, we appreciate that you're even doing it. It's a lot harder on you than it's for us to just show up, and so mad respect, and it's not easy,
Does it seem like wrestling's getting like a bigger resurgence? Like, I heard an interview, I think it was like Bailey or something from WWE, and she was talking about with the merger and the UFC merger with WWE and like social media and bringing in like the bigger, celebrities like Logan Paul, that wrestling's like as big as maybe it was during the Attitude Era. Like, would you agree with that? Like, do you see that, like, as far as it evolving?
In terms of eyes on the product, definitely, it's the biggest it's ever been. You have so many different companies you can watch on a multitude of streaming platforms, from WWE to AEW to MLW. You have OVW here in Louisville. They had that Netflix special that's, took them back to, their prime when they were developmental territory for WWE. You have New Japan Wrestling. You have so many companies that exist that put on great product, and, you get to see them because of the power of the internet and the power of social media. And, TCW, we don't have streaming or anything like that, and that's why it's special when people come out, because this is something you can only see live and in person. And when you're speaking on Logan Paul, I know, a lot of negativity about this YouTube guy, getting into the product, but look what it's done for the product. It's helping that demographic. It's bringing more people in. I actually like watching him wrestle. It's fun to me to watch this guy who, was in so much different controversies and stuff, to find an art form that actually works for him. It's nice.
And for him to do it very well. There's a lot of times I think back to the Attitude Era when they would bring in, outsiders, and it didn't always work. Dennis Rodman, awesome, whenever he was in the ring, him and Hogan, maybe didn't work the best, but to see Logan Paul, very natural with it, like you said, regardless of any of the controversies, he is bringing a lot to the business.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't doubt the skill in what it's doing. I think even Shawn Michaels mentioned it when Logan first started going down to the Performance Center to get ready. He's like, I've never seen anybody, this dedicated to learning something that they've never done before. And honestly, I'm kind of envious. I would love to go down to the Performance Center and, see what that's all about. I think it'd be fun.
So is that the goal eventually, down the road, WWE?
And my imposter syndrome says I'm 34 and the mileage, there's not much left. But the reality is, I look at guys like LA Knight in their 40s. I see guys like Damian Priest, in their 40s. R-Truth, probably near 90 by now.
Same.
These guys, they're proving that wrestling is not necessarily a young man's sport. As long as you have the drive and you have the wherewithal and the dedication and honestly the time, you can get there. And for me, I don't want to say, I'll never say never. I would love to end up there one day, or either there, or maybe even New Japan. It's still a dream. I'm still that 13-year-old kid watching Stone Cold Steve Austin get crucified on a TV. The dream is still there. The dream never died. It's just now I'm having that dream as a responsible adult who has bills, and it makes it a little harder. But the dream still exists. So never say never. Give it time, and who knows? You might see BradXilla come across a Titantron at WrestleMania 62 or something.
We're ready. At least you don't have to worry about Vince McMahon being your boss. When that does happen, he isn't going to be your boss.
Man, that shit is wild.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, shit is wild.
Man, it's crazy. The timing is so funny on that too, because of course it was right after they announced that in 2025, Netflix is going to be the home of WWE, which that of course puts it in front of so many other people who aren't even looking for wrestling are going to see it on Netflix. And so they're shaping up to have another giant, couple of years, and then that comes out. It's the timing on that was wild.
And honestly, some of the allegations I read, I'm like, I've sat in locker rooms with some legends from the early days of wrestling, and to hear some of the stories they would tell of just their shenanigans they'd get into with the boys and stuff. Some of the stuff I heard, I'm like, that's actually not too crazy compared to some of the other shit I've heard. I won't mention names or stories here to keep people safe. But man, some of the shit I've heard, I'm like, Oh, okay. So Vince just shit on her head instead of on her chest. Got it.
Checks out.
Yeah, checks out. All right, got it. Cool. But no, definitely. I mean, in all reality, all joking aside, there's some pretty serious allegations, and
Oh, yeah.
and I hope just in terms of the wrestling world, maybe we can look at this and be like, look, we can't be pieces of shit and be in this business. This business is about trust and love, and we have to reflect that in what we do.
Definitely, and I think that's what's happening here. Like people being, held accountable for those behaviors, because it was always, there were things happening or whatever, but sometimes it was kind of under the table or something, like where people didn't acknowledge it. So now, people, take being held responsible is good, always good.
100%.
One thing, let's do this to kind of like end it out. We was wanting to maybe do like a game of like favorites. Like, so we'll ask you, like whatever your favorites are, of certain things in wrestling, and kind of like speedball it.
Cool. Sounds fun.
Favorite wrestler?
Eddie Guerrero.
Yes. Favorite commentator?
Ooh, Corey Graves.
Okay. See, I didn't know if you was gonna go old school with that. I didn't know if you was gonna say like maybe like a Jim Ross or like a Lawler or something.
That they were great, man. But man, Graves has it for me right now.
Okay. Yes. Favorite manager?
Oh man, I would have to say Paul Heyman.
Dude, there is no better, I think, manager than Paul Heyman.
It's almost impossible to find another one.
You get the Paul Heyman rub, dude. You're good.
Exactly.
Do you have a favorite match?
Yeah, I do actually. It was Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio for the custody of Dominic. That is one of my favorite matches. It might not be the cleanest match, but that is one of my favorite matches. That was at a SummerSlam in like 2006, I think.
Was that a ladder match? Was the
ladder match?
Yes,
it was. But I think a second match, if I'm allowed to give a second, that just came to my mind after I said it, was the second Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker Hell in the Cell.
I think I missed the second one. I remember the first one was a classic. What year was the second one?
I think it was like immediately after. It might not have been Hell in the Cell, though. Was it just a traditional match? I might be getting Triple H and Taker mixed up in that. The last Outlaws match.
Either way, if true, anytime Taker and Shawn Michaels had matches, it was always magic. So,
oh yeah,
I got to check that one out. What about favorite like rivalry? Who do you think was like do you have a favorite rivalry?
Man, favorite rivalry. I don't really know one off the top of my head that I can like really like pull out of my brain and be like, this was it. Honestly, the John Cena CM Punk rivalry, just incredible promos and great matches. That one definitely sticks out. Leading up to, the whole sham where CM Punk wins the title and runs out of Chicago with it, leaves the company, and then comes back later and now you have two champions, and the story continued. that rivalry, honestly, it was just fun. That was just fun to watch.
And yeah, whatever anybody says about CM Punk, he can cut a promo. So like for him to like a lot of times like cutting, the fourth wall, just good story. What about what about this favorite finisher?
The choke slam. Love the choke slam. If you can't tell,
Yes.
I do enjoy a good choke slam.
Okay, so we know BradXilla has the best choke slam. Who do you think has
Clearly.
the second best choke slam?
Oh man, probably Kane. Kane has an incredible choke slam. He could really get him up. Like dude's already almost 7 foot. His arm length. These guys are falling from 8 foot in the air. It's just ridiculous. Beautiful choke slams. And I think what makes a good choke slam is also how the person giving the choke slam sells it. And it's that, when he drives him into the mat, he's he's almost surprised by his own strength when he does it, when he comes back up like, oh shit. That was cool.
Got him. So the hurricane isn't on the list.
Oh man, beautiful choke slam, but he just couldn't get him up high enough.
Man,
He needed a
One
ladder
day.
to get him there.
So what about this most underrated? We'll end it with this. Who do you think is the most underrated wrestler?
And I honestly, in terms of personal preference, I think the most underrated, the one that probably gets the most flack for their wrestling style, but is really starting to come into their own. Dominic Mysterio is super underrated, and the fact that he can work with pretty much anybody, he's going to do well. He's gonna carry that Mysterio legacy well. He's going to do it his own way. But yeah, I think he's super underrated right now. And also, who's the Australian guy who's running around with Theory right now? Grayson Waller. Is that him?
I'm not sure personally.
Not sure.
Okay. There's this guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's running around with Theory right now, and he's really good. I've watched some of his matches, and he's great on the mic, and he can work well. So I mean, Dominic and him, we got a couple solid underrated performers.
Nice. So we're definitely looking forward to your show. It's on the 17th at the arena in Jeffersonville, versus the epic Trayvon Smith, right? So,
Right.
we can't wait.
Yeah, we're stoked for it, and we'll keep sharing it out. We can't wait. We hope it's a great turnout for you.
I can't wait either, man. I'm ready to finally get my hands on him. But this time where it exists between two bells instead of just, after a match, I get my hands on him. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We should open the doors around 6. Sometimes we do a pre-show. We'll put on some matches at 6:30, but the card normally starts around 7. So yeah, looking forward to it. And it's not supposed to be, -7 degrees outside either, so it should be a good time.
Right. Yeah. Weather's not going to get in the way this time.
And I hope not.
All right, man, this was a fantastic conversation. I had really enjoyed it. You can definitely see the passion you pour into all of it. So I just wanted to thank you again for, coming on the show, being willing to sit down with us for, 45 minutes, an hour, however long, it's about right at an hour, man. So we really appreciate your time and making time for us.
Patience with we had a little technical difficulty with the camera, so we definitely appreciate your patience.
No worries. Appreciate you guys inviting me on, and I'll send you guys some more names that I think would be great to talk to.
Awesome.
Yeah,
we would love that, dude. We really appreciate it. It
For sure.
helps us, keep the content going and keep, like I said, we just like talking to cool people doing cool things. That was one of the first things I said to you when Stefan connected us, and it's definitely a cool thing. I know you said you don't think yourself's cool, but you do some cool stuff, and that's it. It shows. It shows how much you really care about it, and so we just want to keep doing it. And yeah, we'd love to talk to some more people
and have you back on the show too. Hopefully, next time you're here, you'll have the championship with you. With you.
That'd be fantastic.
We're ready for it.
Yeah, I wish nothing but the best from you guys. Hopefully, see you on February 17th at the arena, and yeah, should be a good time.
All right.
We'll see you then.
We'll definitely see you then, and we will see everybody else next time on the next one.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Interest of the greater good for me to smoke a joint and calm down.
I am the greatest. He'll fall an ace to prove that I'm great. And if he keeps talking jive, I'm going to cut it to 5.